Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today I have some absolutely terrifying encounters to start your night off with. Before we get into these encounters, though, a couple links I'd like to share. As you know, I rely on my Patreon, my PayPal, and my merch store to help the channel to continue to grow and go. All of those links are in the description below. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1, 2, and 3, the audiobook version, written by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeffrey Nadolny, are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes. The links to those are in the description as well. Now, I've taken enough of your time. Let's get on with today's upload, shall we? Real quick, apparently there is a new subscriber who told me that I shouldn't yell, shall we, in the beginning of my uploads anymore. Well, I told him to move on, because that's how it's been done for 3 years. Now, if I'm wrong, please let me know. But I like yelling into my mic every once in a while. Moving on. Today's first part of the upload. Anybody that's been on the Navajo reservation has either probably heard of some creepy things or has experienced pretty creepy things. Namely, skinwalkers. I've only seen one. Here's my experience. I come from a small town in northern Arizona that's sandwiched between the Paiute Reservation to the north and the United States' largest Navajo reservation to the south. My high school, being so small, a 1A high school that has on average 80 students enrolled every year, always had to travel south about 5 to 10 hours one way to play another high school in any sport. This means that we traveled a lot on the Navajo res, and we usually stayed at hotels when we'd head out to play and come home in the morning. But this trip was a bit different. I remember the basketball coach saying that the school didn't have enough money to put the teams up in a hotel that trip. So we were going to be on the road for a total of about 12 hours. I was the only male senior to play basketball that season. We had just got done playing our game and we were heading home on our bus, Big Blue. We were headed out and it wasn't long, about 2 hours of driving before we entered the res. By this time, everyone was asleep, with it being about 2 in the morning. When we had crossed the res's border, I noticed the bus driver had sped up and was now going about 85 miles an hour. I thought this was a little weird because he never exceeded the speed limit, at least not in my high school career. For some reason, I couldn't fall asleep like the rest of my teammates, and I just sat at the back of the bus, staring out across the desolate desert landscape that was lit up by the full moon. As I looked out, I could see a figure running toward the bus at an angle of pursuit, and keeping up with the bus at 85 miles an hour. As the figure got closer, I saw that it was a humanoid form. As a matter of fact, it looked exactly like a human, only the face was painted half black, half white, with glowing eyes. Glowing eyes like rabbit's eyes reflecting light from a spotlight. I immediately thought, holy crap, it's a skinwalker. The skinwalker ran to the edge of the road and just kept pace with the bus, hurtling sagebrush and rocks while staring at me. After I made eye contact with the thing, I couldn't look away. It was as if something was holding my head and eyes in place. The skinwalker just smiled at me with this inhuman smile that went ear to ear, showing crooked yellow pointed teeth. I felt like I was going to throw up and I was panicking through the whole ordeal. The skinwalker started to crumble down onto all fours, still keeping pace with the bus. I could see its bones crack and reform. Hair started to appear all over the skinwalker's body, and in about 3 seconds was now a coyote, and it ran back off into the desert out of view. As soon as it was gone, I ran to the onboard bathroom and puked a mixture of food and blood. I didn't want to tell anybody for fear that they would think I was crazy. I confided in my Navajo friend. She told me that I needed to see the chief, who also happened to be a friend of mine, and get blessed. I saw him the next school day in the parking lot. He just came up to me and mumbled something in Navajo while waving a feathered scepter-like thing, turned around and got into his truck and drove away. To this day, I've never seen another skinwalker. It might be due to the fact that I moved away from that town and the res. If I do go south, I go around. Way around. Today's second part of the upload. The first sighting was July of 2019. I was on the phone with my boyfriend in rural Arizona. I was sitting in my truck at the time, parked, facing my house to the east. With him and I, we would be on the phone till one of us fell asleep. This night it was him, and it was around 10 p.m. I tried multiple times to wake my boyfriend up, or to see if he was asleep, and I hung up. After the call ended, I felt this feeling like I was going to see something scary and tried to shake it off. I looked behind me to the west, and toward the northwest is a lot with a giant streetlight in the middle of the property. In the area between the lot and my house is a ditch. But from the darkness, I saw this being come from the ditch, and in contrast with the bright background of the lot, it floated and glided over the ground, it seemed. The movements it made were really smooth, and didn't have any motor movement, jagged, like a normal living thing. I was looking at it, astonished. I was seeing it because its arms weren't normal arms. They were fluid and almost like tentacles. But it looked like water, and its tentacle arms moved like a wave. The movement it glided was very fast as well. I was super scared and never experienced anything like it. I called it the Fluid Man to my family. I still see it when I think about it. The second sighting of my sister, October 2019. My sister, around 10 p.m. on a Friday night, went outside to get some air, since the wood stove can get a little hot when it's filled with wood and coal. She went outside and then opened the door fast to tell me to come. And I sat on the table across the living room and the kitchen. When I ran over, she said the thing was gone, and she saw something rise out of the ground like a zombie, above the ground 20 to 30 feet in the air. She made the movement of it rising from the ground in an upward motion very exaggerated, which seemed to be creepier. It was in the same area as the last time, since if you go out in my front door, it's looking west. She said it started flying with two other people walking west on the road going the same direction. My sister is a very hard-headed, stubborn person who isn't scared of anything. She's super courageous and will do anything to keep us safe. She never shows any emotion and keeps a strong front like my dad. Her and I have a special relationship, so I've seen her more than anyone, and she's my best friend. However, I've never seen her that scared and alarmed in my life. It scared me too, 'cause it's something I've rarely ever seen. Both experiences were scary, and it was weird they happened within months. I always hope that I'll never see it again. My sister always brings it up now and then on late nights. Today's third part of the upload. Last night I did a little piece on the Beast of Bladenboro, a creature I am super fascinated with. I'm friends with a retired female sheriff in that county, or state and county. She is now animal control, and she has dedicated a lot of her life to researching the Beast of Bladenboro, Dogman, and other cryptids. Eventually, I'd like to have her on the show to share some of her knowledge with you guys. But anyway, I just wanted to touch basis with you guys a little more on this terrifying creature. The Beast of Bladenborough story took place from December of 1953 through January of 54. In some ways, the Beast of Bladenborough reminds one of the Timber Creek Monster. In both cases, an unknown creature appeared to go on a mass killing spree, seemingly killing for sport. While the Timber Creek Monster was eventually killed and identified, the Bladenborough Beast was never caught, and what the creature really was remains unknown. In the period of about a month, the Beast of Bladenborough was believed to have killed over 100 animals in and around Bladenborough, North Carolina. Goats, cows, hogs, rabbits, and many dogs all fell victim to the beast. The manner of death was quite gruesome. The victims often being torn apart, or as one man put it, shredded to ribbons. Jaws were ripped off, animals decapitated, and skulls crushed. At one point, the mayor of Bladenborough posed for a picture with a dead bobcat, claiming that the Bladenborough Beast had been caught. However, a bobcat is just not capable of causing the type of injuries suffered by the victims. The descriptions of the Bladenborough Beast varied, indicating that there very well may have been more than one animal involved in the killings. From sleek, black, and about 2 feet tall at the shoulders to 3 feet tall with brown fur. At one point, on 2 consecutive nights, hunting parties of more than 800 men searched the area for the Bladenborough Beast, but came up with nothing. By the end of January, the killings stopped. The question remains, however, what was the Beast of Bladenborough? Some say it was a wolf. This is unlikely, however. 2 of the men that had hunted for the beast tracked it for several miles. From the tracks they followed, they identified the beast as a big cat and weighing between 70 to 80 pounds. They never saw the creature, though, and there is no way to know if the creature they were following was in fact the beast. The most likely animal that could have been responsible for the killings would have been a panther or a cougar. Females do weigh in at 70 to 80 pounds, and there was, at least on report of the beast, where a smaller one was seen. Some estimate the size of the beast went as high as 150 pounds, which is the size of an adult male cougar. Now, like I said last night, I don't feel that the Beast of Bladenborough was a cougar, mountain lion, any feline, unless it was a bipedal feline, because there have been reports that I've heard and that are not shared in the papers, that the beast had been seen bipedally. Now, when I interviewed Larry, and he described his encounter, his first encounter with the creature in the side of his yard, that immediately reminded me of the Beast of Bladenborough. Kind of like a bulldog-like face, just big, scary. So, anyway, moving on. Today's 4th part of the upload. I live in Georgia in a rural town not far from Atlanta. There's a set of woods that's behind our house, and it divides 2 neighborhoods, and it's about a mile wide, if that. Strange occurrences have always surrounded these woods. Small things like random trash, tarps, etc., I should mention. It's more swampy marsh than woods, so it makes camping in there impossible. One night I was taking our dog out. He stays in the back half of our house due to him not liking the other dogs. I took him out the side door and walked around the house to the fence. For some reason, when we left the house, he was absolutely terrified. He didn't want to go out. Very unusual for a dog who's quick to snatch someone's soul if prompted. Not thinking about it, we pushed onward. After he did his business, we walked back. This is when I noticed it, or rather, heard it. crunching of leaves. At first I thought it was one of the dozen cats on the property until I realized it was matching my steps. If I walked, you could hear it walk. If I stopped, it stopped. There's a small clearing between the woods where one of the sheds are. That's when I saw it. My dog was the first to see something, and then I saw it. I don't know what creature. It was taller than the shed, so maybe a good 8 feet tall, and it darted across the clearing at a crazy fast speed. My dog, who again isn't scared of anything, bolts so fast I dropped his leash, and he ran to the door whining. I was quickly behind him. Once we were inside, I quickly bolted the door and ran to tell my girlfriend what happened. She immediately wanted to investigate, saying it's probably some woodland creature. Armed with 2 flashlights, we went out the front door. As we walked toward the wood line, we could hear something moving around. It sounded maybe 200 yards away. As we scanned with our flashlights, we saw nothing but kept hearing it. Then we heard it get closer and closer until it was maybe 20 feet away. Still nothing. No eyes, not even an animal call, just rustling. My girlfriend, now scared, heads for the house. I decide to check with the neighbors to see if maybe one of their dogs got out. When I arrived at his house, my neighbor, who we'll call Dave, explained that all his dogs were accounted for. Curious, he came to investigate. This is when I noticed that whatever this thing was followed me along the wood line to Dave's house, and now was behind Dave's house. Gun in hand, we went into his backyard scanning for something. We could hear it rustling, or maybe running, about 100 yards away in the thick swamp woods. Way too thick for a person to walk in it, let alone run. Then it stopped. It went dead silent. Scanning on the edge, we heard and see nothing. And then bam! All of a sudden it was 5 feet in front of us, sprinting at me. It slammed the fence so hard it rocked back and forth. Dave, scared shitless, shot randomly at nothing. We never saw it, never heard it get close to us. Again, as I mentioned, the woods are thick, too thick to run in. So what the hell, did it teleport silently in front of us? Spooked, we were about to run. Then we heard it speak. It was human in nature, but not English. It sounded alien-like. Not a known language. Dave, a hunter for 40 years, still to this day cannot explain what it was. Anyway, we heard it, then we bolted. He covered me, and I ran to my house. Not 10 minutes later, we both hear a loud explosion coming from the woods. It shook our houses and flickered our power. I ran outside to see what it was, and of course nothing. But when Dave came out and confirmed he felt the same thing, we were both once again terrified. Moments later, a few strangers from the neighborhood came driving down our cul-de-sac, and they all agreed that the blast sound they heard came from behind our house. 911 was called, and 2 police officers interviewed us separately. Our stories matched. The responding officers refused to go anywhere near those woods. They took the report and left. To this day, we're still not sure what we encountered. Also, Dave doesn't go outside at night anymore. It spooked him that bad. The next night, earlier in the day, my mother-in-law, a police officer for the town, 40 minutes away, installed 2 motion-activated trail cams along the wood's edge. They were brand new. Keep that detail in mind. Thinking maybe we'd seen something, we waited for nightfall. Later that evening, I went outside to feed our outdoor cats. That's when I heard it again. The rustling. This time, not taking any chances, I ran inside and told everyone what I heard. They all piled by the back door and urged me to go out there and look. Reluctantly, I agreed. I took my flashlight and walked to the edge of the woods. Knowing there was a trail cam covering this area, I figured if it got me, it would be on camera, and my sacrifice wouldn't be for nothing. As I got to the wood's edge, I could hear it still rustling. I'm shaking at this point because I could tell it was maybe less than 15 yards in front of me. Everyone at the door was watching me and could hear this thing. Then it got quiet for a moment. It was gone, or so I thought. Just as I'm scanning with my flashlight, trying desperately to see the normal woodland creatures so I can just laugh this whole thing away, boom! Something fell out of a tree and hit the ground so hard it shook the soil beneath my feet. It was so close that I was sure it was going to lunge out of the brush and snag me. I dropped my flashlight and ran the 100 yards back to the house in what seemed like seconds. I screamed, "Get the frick in the house!" as everyone was already scampering into the house. They heard and felt the thud as well. Our neighbor Dave called my mother-in-law to ask what the loud crash was. For him to have heard it from well over 700 yards away is insane to me. Once the adrenaline died down, we realized that this happened right next to the trail cam. Problem solved. We got evidence of this thing. The next morning, we checked the SD card in one of the trail cams. They have videos up until 11:47 p.m. The rest is corrupted. They were both brand new trail cams and SD cards. We reset everything and set them back up. And to this day, we've still never encountered the creature again, nor caught anything on camera. Alright guys, I had 2 more encounters that I was going to share with you, but my brain is spent right now. I can't even keep focused. As a lot of you know, my dad had what was supposed to be day surgery on his foot Monday. When they got in there, they realized there was a very bad infection, and his foot was not getting any blood supply to it. So they kept him overnight, and they were going to do bypass surgery on his foot. A whole vascular team was assembled to do this. Apparently my dad's foot is so fucked right now. The infection went from his foot all the way up to his groin area. The doctor cannot fix the vein. I'm not really sure exactly the proper terminology of everything, but he just let it go for too long, and this is what happened. The infection, I'm just glad they caught it at this point. Yes, it was up to his groin, but 2 feet further and he would have been dead. Kind of puts your perspective on things of how precious life is, how precious family is, and yeah, I'm sorry I can't record anymore tonight, guys. Have a great night. Thank you.